The Panthers are still looking for their first 60-minute performance of the season. We discuss more of the special teams troubles and the peaks and valleys of the season. And do the Panthers go with Anthony Stolarz on Tuesday?
Your Locked On Panthers, your daily podcast on the Florida Panthers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
And welcome into this Monday, October 23rd edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We're your team every day. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. I'm Armando Velez from the Hockey News, and you can follow me on X at MondoMan12. Follow the show account on X and Instagram at LO_FLA Panthers. And shout out to the everydayers who come back here and get your daily Florida Panthers fix. And today's episode is brought to you by Sleeper. Download the Sleeper app and use promo code LOCKEDONNHL to get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. Use Sleeper's terms of use for details. More on Sleeper a little bit later in the show, but the Florida Panthers sitting at 2-3-0 in the after 5 games of this very young NHL season. And these were this is kind of a little bit of where I expected the Panthers to be. I wasn't expecting the Florida Panthers to be blowing the doors off of teams, and I wasn't even expecting the Florida Panthers to get the doors blown off them neither as well. I mean, when you think about the teams that they've faced, I mean, listen, the Vancouver Canucks are the only team so far that they've faced in this young season who didn't make the postseason. And this was a team that finished a lot better towards the end in the last 2 seasons than they did when they started. And it's a little bit of a culture change going on over there in Vancouver. Lots of talent still over there as well. Just haven't really gotten it together as far as getting wins in the standings as well. But I mean, it's a really tough stretch for the Panthers. Luckily, the schedule at least opens up in this next game, which we'll get more about in segment number 3 a little bit, not previewing too much of it. But for the Panthers, I mean, 2-3-0, nobody's panicking. At least I'm not, as far as where the Panthers are. But there are still little bits of issues still with what we've seen out of this team. I mean, there's still not a full 60-minute performance for this team. As far as their game against Winnipeg, that was their only game where the opposition was outperforming the Panthers for a full 60. I mean, they only had a lead for 10 seconds, and then the Winnipeg Jets score. I mean, but even when the Florida Panthers were trailing on Saturday night, I mean, they early on after Quinn Hughes scores from the point, and then Sergei Bobrovsky was screened by Elias Pettersson, which great job by the Florida Panthers not challenging that play, because I feel like that the Panthers would have lost that with Sergei Bobrovsky's glove just being outside the crease and all when Quinn Hughes scored. But the Florida Panthers go and score 20 seconds later as Barkov was lost in the Vancouver Canucks lost Barkov in the neutral zone and then goes on a breakaway and then scores backhand on Casey DeSmith. But some of the other peaks that the Florida Panthers have had, I mean, Sam Reinhart, 6 goals in the last 4 games, 5 in 5 games of the season if you include the shutout loss against the Minnesota Wild. And Paul Maurice spoke about Sam Reinhart and and Barkov being on the same line together. About they tried it for 20 games, they weren't really generating a lot of goals, but they were generating a lot of chances. But I mean, Evan Rodriguez seems to be that difference maker on that top line. We spoke about what he can do as far as getting in front, the one-timer. But one thing we haven't really spoken about how is Evan Rodriguez skating through the zone and keeping the opposition on their toes. I mean, it really happened. It really happened a lot on Saturday's game against the Vancouver Canucks. I mean, another valley as well is 6 shots on goal in the second period. I mean, you're not going to win a lot of games, especially when you're falling behind as well. I mean, within the first 5 minutes of the third, you saw the Florida Panthers having 6 shots on goal within the first 5 minutes and all. And in you know, and it would have been a great opportunity for the Florida Panthers. I mean, to get their first 3-game winning streak of the season, which it took February of last year to get their first one. So it's gonna have to take a little bit of it's gonna take a little bit more time to see the first one of the season. But think about the first 3 losses of the season for the Panthers. Every single time they've trailed going into the third period. I mean, and the amount of of when the switch flips for the Panthers. I mean, 15-5 in game number 1, shot on goal advantage for the Panthers over the Minnesota Wild, 13-10 in the second loss of the season against Winnipeg, and then 17-4, where 2 of those shots were the goal on the empty net by the Vancouver Canucks, and then the fourth one, excuse me, where it was very reminiscent of game 2 in 2022 against the Tampa Bay Lightning, where Oliver Ekman-Larsson and Gus Forsling were at the end boards battling, and they lose the board battle. They get it back up front, and then Steven Lorentz and Sergei Bobrovsky were trying to a little bit of a miscommunication, but you can't really blame them on that. It's a broken play. They're trying to get in front to try to take away the angle, and then they bump into each other, and then the Vancouver Canucks score to make it 4-3. And man, the shot on goal advantage was 16-2 at that time, and it's such a backbreaker whenever you get Sam Reinhart scoring twice in the first few minutes of the third period as well. And man, both of them being just a great setup for the Panthers. I mean, they're all over the zone. Once again, we were talking about Evan Rodriguez keeping Vancouver on their toes from the blue line, and then Reinhardt scoring on that second chance opportunity as well. And then the Panthers, what they were not doing in the first few periods was not getting pucks in deep and going to battle. And look what happens when they did go into getting it deep and going the battle. They were able to get their forecheck going, which is something that they talk about a lot on when it comes to their game and trying to establish it more as far as that. And it's a problem when you don't get that going as well. I mean, it's a and yes, that goal against on the fourth one, the ultimate backbreaker. When you're looking at the good and the bad, when we spoke about a lot of good of Oliver Ekman-Larsson about how he moves on the power play defensively, but that was one of those yikes moments when it came to Oliver Ekman-Larsson of the Florida Panthers when it came to that. I mean, Valley's as well, 8 power play goals against in the first 5 games. That's an issue, and 3 of the 5 games you allow 2 2 in the same game. That's an issue when it comes to the Panthers. I mean, and even in Saturday's game, the Florida Panthers touched the puck quite a lot too on the PK. But the issue is getting it out of the zone and getting it to the point where you clear all the way to the other end of the ice to get a change. And the Stenlund Lustrainen pairing was out on the ice through the entirety of one of the PKs. I mean, they had a little bit of trouble getting that puck out of the zone and all. So that's an issue there. I mean, and the Florida Panthers on their end of special teams, when they are on the advantage, 2 power play goals out of 20 to start the year. You know, it's gonna be this is the growing pains of when you're getting a whole bunch of new players in. I mean, the top PK unit, you see the Mikolas, the Dmitry Kulikovs, the guys who were first coming in, and then you on the power play you're seeing OEL and Evan Rodriguez on the other side. So you're seeing how the turnover of this roster is really having bits of issues clicking on special teams and all. And there's that question. There was that question asked to Paul Maurice after the game on Saturday about how much more aggressive does he have to be on the PK in order to prevent goals against on it? And there's different ways to see it. If you're more aggressive on the PK, trying to lay out a hit or getting into the passing lanes, but then you miss out on those passing lanes, then you're gonna be out of position and not in a place where you can block a shot, and then you have a free shooting lane towards Sergei Bobrovsky. So there's a little bit of that of of that way of looking at it whenever it comes to aggressiveness. So aggressiveness isn't the be all end all when it comes to killing penalties and preventing those goals against. And Mahura got an interference on the first one. Spoke about it after the game, how the solution really is to just not take those penalties. I mean, and this is a highly penalized team. I mean, even going back to last season, Dmitry Kulikov got a penalty in the third period, which the Vancouver Canucks didn't score on, but you're talking about the momentum that was just taken away by the Panthers. I mean, an unnecessary penalty too, just knocking the opposition down as well. I mean, you know, you're trying to come back and then you go to the box and all that. So those growing pains, those are some of the ones that continue for the Panthers as they're still trying to get it together and still trying to mesh as far as the new players on the ice and all. So a little bit of issues, but not to panic about when it comes to this team. But in segment number 2, we're going to discuss more about the middle six for the Panthers, as they have had a little bit of a hard time going in this young NHL season. We are going to discuss that and more here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Sleeper, and the Alexander Barkov gets a hat trick. The Florida Panthers win the Stanley Cup. And if you want 100 times your money, play daily fantasy hockey on the Sleeper app. These are all possible scenarios for the season, but you have a chance at winning big. You need to play daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper. As the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network, Sleeper is our top choice for daily fantasy sports, especially daily fantasy hockey. With Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy contests with studs like Matthew Tkachuk, Alexander Barkov, Connor McDavid, Alex Ovechkin, Sidney Crosby, Cale Makar. All you need to do is pick more or less on stats of these stars. Choose game stats like goals, assists, saves, plus, minus, and more. You heard me, Cats fans. 100 times the payout on Sleeper. So start paying attention and get your picks right so you can win big. So use promo code LOCKEDONNHL so you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's Locked On NHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Segment number 2 here on this Monday, October 23rd edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day here on a Monday. And the top line and the fourth line, my goodness, these last 2 games, I have zero complaints about those two lines, especially. We spoke about Reinhardt's 6 goals in 5 games. Alexander Barkov getting a goal on the night. I mean, they're performing. They are generating speed through the neutral zone. They are winning their battles. I mean, they were there, and the fourth line, once again, many great shifts on Saturday night's game against the Vancouver Canucks. I mean, you see them battling for pucks, getting it back to the point, following their own shots as well. You see much of it, and we spoke about Nick Cousins' ability to go up and down the lineup on how it's helped the Florida Panthers, but for this short time, it's really not cutting it for the Panthers on the third line. And yeah, they're without Sam Bennett. Yeah, they're without their most physical forward on their in the lineup as well. And it's gonna really help when you put Eetu Luostarinen back on that third line on Lundell's wing. Maybe it's going to help Nick Cousins, and you're going to assume that Justin Sordiff is going to be sent down to Charlotte once Sam Bennett comes back as well, because I don't think Paul Maurice is going to scratch Nick Cousins. I mean, you need to see that same energy from the fourth line as you on that third line as well. And I mean, Lundell and the whole team there on the goal by Elias Pettersson, they were puck watching there. I mean, Kuzmenko was skating around the end boards and all, and you see Lundell just having his eyes on Kuzmenko and then leaving Elias Pettersson right out on where he beats Sergei Bobrovsky far side, screen in front as well, and just a matter of just not having the head on the swivel. And 15 giveaways it's not going to be easy to when you're giving the puck when you're giving away the puck 15 times. We spoke about Kulikov, two of those giveaways, and then as well. But you also think about how I think the second line is going to be fine, especially once Bennett comes back. But it's really the third line that has me a little bit concerned. I mean, Chucky, 4 points in the first 5 games, and even Kachuk really hasn't gotten it going a little bit in this first few games. I mean, the analytics do say that there are more expected goals against on the second line than there are expected goals for, but the actual goals for have that second line outscoring the opposition by +1. So the second line is getting away with a lot of high danger chances as well. So, and a lot of credit to Sergei Bobrovsky as well for bailing out that second line for the Panthers as well. So there's a lot of pain, as far as growing pains as well, with a rookie being on that third line as well with Anton Lundell. The truth is, at this point in Anton Lundell's career, very early on, you can't expect them to carry a line as far as as far as the inexperience of him, and also with a rookie as well in Justin Sordiff as well on there, and it's just not cutting it for that third line right now. Corsi for that line is at 40%. The exact numbers are 13-19 and a -2 as far as the goal differential for that line. So that one is definitely something that, as far as energy and as far as second chance opportunities as well, you need that third line especially to get going as well. I mean, and you spoke all about the decor as well with OEL, Forsling. They, as far as being a number one, as far as Gus Forsling, there's still a lot of those bad breaks that the Panthers that the Panthers not only get, but they put themselves in these positions as far as giving away the puck as well. Gus Forsling has had a little bit of trouble here and there of it. As great of a skater as he is, and as well as he can break out of his own zone, but when it comes to turning the puck over and then transitioning on that, it's been a little bit of an issue for Gus Forsling during as far as since he's been on that top pair defense, and the Panthers have been rolling with that for the last 2 years, and it's just you got to wonder what that's going to be when the LTIR guys do in fact come back in Montour and Ekblad as well. So it's a little bit of a concern for the Panthers as far as that, because and when you have a whole bunch of lefties in the lineup as well, that's just you're gonna have a lot of once again, you're gonna have a lot of players playing out of position, and the Panthers do find themselves there as well. So that's definitely a unit that's got to improve. But hey, I mean, you through 5 games where you were basically outplayed in 2 of them mostly, and you could have stolen a win in that first one, which Paul Maurice also spoke after the game on Saturday saying, "Oh yeah, he doesn't want to talk about mostly about how, oh yeah, but they did get their chances," because he spoke about how a lot of teams on the losing side speak about, oh, we had our chances, and and that's great. Honestly, that's great on Paul Maurice that he's not going that route, even though we see the fact that they actually do have those creating those chances as well. And if you're the Panthers, you're not you're kind of scratching your head that you also didn't get this win against the Vancouver Canucks backup goaltender as well, in Casey DeSmith, which the moment that we saw that Thatcher Demko wasn't going to be starting in this one, it's like, oh yes, the Panthers do have their chance to hopefully feast on it, but a missed opportunity for the Florida Panthers as they lose Saturday night's game by a final score of 5-3. And 2 of those 4 shots go in for goals in that final frame, and it's just frustrating how you had a chance. You gave yourself a chance, but comeback Cats, listen, even going back to last season, the Panthers in this system with what they have, this isn't going to work consistently if you're consistently playing from behind and trying to play the game of catch up. It's just not going to work over a long period of time. And we saw how even in late January they had their first win when trailing after the second period, and it's they know that that's a trend that just can't continue going into this season. And 65% on the penalty kill as well. They were 59% in round 1 against Boston, and they still got away with get advancing. And that is definitely something that needs to be addressed, as the Florida Panthers are getting a few days off. They didn't practice on Sunday, but they will be back at practice. Actually, they are hitting the ice as we are recording here at 11:15 a.m. on a Monday from Emirates Bank Arena, as they are preparing for the San Jose Sharks as they visit on Tuesday. But in segment number 3, we are going to discuss more about if the Florida Panthers should give Sergei Bobrovsky a rest and have Anthony Stolarz between the pipes on Tuesday. We are going to discuss that and more here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. And passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll also find exactly what you're looking for. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. Segment number 3 here on this Monday, October 23rd edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day here on a Monday, where the Florida Panthers find themselves 2-3-0 heading into their Tuesday matchup against the San Jose Sharks from Emirates Bank Arena. And there's only one game on the NHL schedule on Monday. It's the Montreal Canadiens versus the Buffalo Sabres, which the NHL schedule during the football season is a little strange always. I mean, you'll have like 2 games on a Sunday and then not as many games on a Monday as well. And even Fridays, you'll have like two 7:00 games. If you're a West Coast hockey fan and you're not going out on a Friday and you're done by 7, I mean, but if you want to go out after and you just want to watch some hockey before, oh man, if you're living on the West Coast, you are honestly a little jealous of people on the West Coast who get to watch games and end at a good time as well. But but let's go back to the Florida Panthers and the topic at hand before I get off topic. But this coming week, it's actually a big week for the long term for the Panthers. Yeah, you have a team that's hasn't won a game. The San Jose Sharks are 0-4-1 in this very young season. But as far as where the Panthers' schedule and what it looks like this week, San Jose Tuesday, then 3 days off before you welcome in the Seattle Kraken. Which, funny enough, Doug Plagans and Jameson Olive on their latest episode of Territory Talk spoke about how it's a very aquatic theme when it comes to the opponents for the Florida Panthers, as far as the last 3 games of the homestand before the Florida Panthers go on the road to face the Boston Bruins at TD Garden. And also I want to mention great job for the Florida Panthers and the entire organization on Pink in the Rink night as well. And definitely a night that means a lot to Ryan Lomberg, as he spoke about his mother going through breast cancer twice and beating it. So congratulations to Ryan Lomberg's mom on beating breast cancer twice and being a fighter for this disease as we are trying to continue to find a cure. But Sergei Bobrovsky, as far as rest, I think this is very important, an important week. I mean, and it's easy for me to continue looking at last year and how fresh Bobrovsky was going towards the end of the season last year. Yeah, he dealt with a non-COVID illness. Yeah, he came in game 3, started game 4, and then took the reins the rest of the way for the Panthers. But as far as the long-term projection of the Panthers, I mean, we're 5 games through, and even spoke about it on this show and even on the FLA Cats hockey podcast with Kirby, Ryan, and David about how it's maybe going to be every 5 games for the Panthers, that 4 or 5 games around that range that you're going to see Sergei Bobrovsky starting, and then maybe Anthony Stolarz for one. Their first back-to-back isn't until November 16th and 17th when they go on their West Coast trip to California in the middle of November. And this is going to be their first stretch where they're going to have 3 days off after Tuesday. Their next one won't come until early December, where they'll have a game on a Saturday, and then they won't have a game until a Wednesday as well. Really, really early on in December, but they're going to have 2 back-to-backs in the month of November. So very crucial for Sergei Bobrovsky to start getting some rest. So you're going to start seeing Anthony Stolarz later. Definitely, you're going to see him at least get 1 start the next month. But with the Panthers not having a back-to-back yet, and with the way the schedule is structured, do we see Anthony Stolarz start on Tuesday? And we have no knowledge of the practice schedule at this moment in time until after Tuesday. I'm actually going to check email real quick to see if the Florida Panthers did actually send out the practice schedule. And nope, we have no email on the Florida Panthers sending out their practice schedule. So we don't know what's going on as far as after Tuesday. But also what Sergei Bobrovsky has done at 5-on-5. His save percentage is .927 at 5-on-5. He's been the least of the Florida Panthers issues as far as that. We spoke about keeping the game at 5-on-5. You're protecting the middle of the ice. His goal save above expected is 0.8. Good for 27th in the NHL, but also it's more than just Sergei Bobrovsky making the save. It's about the ability to see through screens, the him having time, the lack of redirections as well at 5-on-5 for what the Panthers defense is giving up or lack thereof. That is definitely a strength that you're seeing for the Florida Panthers defensively early on in this season, and you hope that continues if you see Anthony Stolarz make a start on Tuesday. And I want to see what Stolarz can do with that big frame of his 6'6" as well for him as well. And we spoke about his numbers during the offseason of playing almost a full 82 games in his career. Yeah, it's all been in a backup role, but he has a big enough sample size to see what he can do. And he came in with a .912 save percentage while backing up John Gibson and facing a whole bunch of shots last season with the Anaheim Ducks. So we spoke about all throughout the offseason about the amount of high danger chances that the Anaheim Ducks gave up last season as well. So definitely we can see a situation where that happens. And let's be honest, the San Jose Sharks are tanking. They have no intention on trying to win. They failed to tank for Bedard. They got the number 4 overall pick in Will Smith last year, who's actually leading his team in scoring this season. He is current. I don't think he's currently with the San Jose Sharks at the moment, but JD Young of San Jose Hockey Now and Locked On Sharks did speak about the number 4 overall pick leading his team, Boston College, in points right now. 3 goals, 2 assists for BC in the NCAA as well this season, and they're trying to go for the number 1 overall pick once again this upcoming season. And it's funny because after the home opener against the Toronto Maple Leafs, me and the fellow media members, me, David Dwork, Jordan McPherson, and George Richards, we were all went to the infield after the game, and Boston San Jose was playing, and we got to see Anthony Duclair score. And we cheer for players as well, not only as far as wanting success for the Florida Panthers, as far as not only the region and our coverage, but we also cheer for former players to be successful. And we're all very happy to see Anthony Duclair got on the score sheet for the San Jose Sharks. That was their only goal on that night as they lost to the Boston Bruins 3-1. But definitely it's going to be an emotional return, I'm sure, for Duke as he plays his first game in Sunrise, Florida since the trade, as far as bringing in Steven Lorentz and clearing that cap room for the Florida Panthers to sign Evan Rodriguez, which, man, once again, Evan Rodriguez, as far as term on the contract and the cap hit, it's a very good deal for the Florida Panthers as they are trying to solidify more of that top line and having one consistent piece on Barkov's wing. And to think that Barkov is doing it without Carter Verhaeghe on his line, which the second line will get going. I'm very confident in that, and all. But this game on Tuesday, it's going to be your get right game. And listen, they won't say it publicly, but I'll say it for them. This is a game in the season where on paper that you're better than. This is a game where you should be confident, where you can get the opposition to commit some stick infractions, get on the power play, get it going, and hopefully pad up some stats. Hopefully there as far as the Panthers, as far as beating a team that you should. And for the most part, they have over the years beaten the teams that they should. Here and there, they will lose to a team that they shouldn't. I don't think Vancouver was that team that you put in the you shouldn't lose category, because Vancouver wouldn't surprise a lot of people if they make the playoffs as well. So you have a goaltender who can win the Vezina, even though Thatcher Demko didn't play against the Panthers, and you have a center who won the Calder Trophy in Elias Pettersson. You have a number 1 defenseman in Quinn Hughes. Yeah, the complementary pieces as far as that aren't the best for Vancouver, but you still have a lot of superstar players who can make an impact there. So I wouldn't put that. I'm not, as far as the whole season, as far as the first 5 games, as far as the macro perspective, I always saw the Vancouver Canucks as a team that was going to improve. And this is the part of the tough schedule early on for the season, as hopefully Tuesday, it's once again that get right game for the Florida Panthers. And tomorrow on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, we are going to try to bring in JD Young, the host of Locked On Sharks, to preview this matchup between the Florida Panthers and the San Jose Sharks. But in the meantime, if you like what you're hearing, please subscribe to the podcast to be notified every single time the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast jumps into your podcast feed. Don't forget to also subscribe to the other shows on the Locked On NHL network, including Locked On NHL, Locked On Fantasy Hockey, Flip Livingstone, and Steve Roden, and Locked On NHL Prospects. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. So I'm Armando Velez, signing off. And you've been listening to Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day.